Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Talkin' Tunes. I am your host, Frank Walsh. Thanks for tuning in today. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a guest for you who is going to regale you with some of his great original tunes. He's going to tell you some fascinating stories. He's a gentleman who lives around the local area, plays around a lot at the local venues. He's traveled all over the country. He plays with a current band called The Beings, and he has played with some very interesting folks, and he has met a lot of interesting musicians along the way, and he's going to tell you some of that today. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you a singer, songwriter, and a friend, Mr. Franki Dennull. Frankie, how are you, kid?
Nice to meet you, finally, yes.
Finally, you know, we talked about this for a while, but here you are.
I know it, yeah.
I tell you, thanks for coming on, first of all.
Thank you for having me. You know what? Are my feet too big for you?
Yeah, you've got some big feet there, kid. What size are those puppies?
You'll have a hard way filling my shoes then, won't you?
Ooh. This is the part of the show where the guest attacks the host, and thank God we have editing.
Okay, we're going to cut that part out. I thought that was the good stuff.
I told you you're going to be in for an entertaining show. So Frankie, for maybe those one or two people who have been living under a rock for the last 100 years, why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit about who you are and talk about yourself for a little bit.
Well, it's like one of those overnight successes that nobody's heard of.
Right,
know?
It took you 20 years to become an overnight success, right?
Try like 40.
40 years.
Been playing a long time.
Yeah.
Well, I was born in New Bedford. My roots are from England. Came over from actually Manchester area, just outside of Liverpool, and my grandparents met crossing over the channel over there in Dublin, Ireland, and so came over to the U.S., and so all I heard was a lot of music around the house. And then when the British invasion came, I was supposed to be an American, and I was having a hard time enjoying American music. It was all the British invasion. The Beatles were the very first thing that I really tuned into as a kid. And I said, you know what? That's what I want to be.
I was just going to ask you, what was that moment when you realized that you know, you wanted to be a musician and you wanted to do what they do? And it's amazing how many people have said that the Beatles was pretty much one of their first influences. Well,
you're listening to your parents' music all your life, and then you know, you're young and they're playing like Brenda Lee and Elvis and things like that, and you hear what they're playing, and then you get your own little transistor radio and you go sit on the steps and you're tuning the radio, and Ed Sullivan had just pitched the Beatles and they were on every radio station around, and I'm like tuning into that, getting alone saying, love, love me do, and I want to hold your hand. I'm like, this is awesome.
Right.
And I had a 8-year-old girlfriend lived down the street, and I go out on my swings and sing, I want to hold your hand. I was like, I was a star already, you know.
That's cool. Now,
so, I just wanted to be just like them.
How did you choose the guitar? Obviously, maybe Paul or John?
It was John.
Yeah.
At that age, I wasn't sure of it, but as I grew into my teens and I was aware of the leadership and the mind behind it, John was a brat, you know, and he is also the kingpin behind it. As far as musicianship, nobody's going to touch the facts that they were all great.
Yes.
But the point of that sassy business-mindedness of John, even in the chaos, he was like leading. Where are we going to go, fellas?
Right.
You know, to the toppermost of the poppermost.
Right.
I mean, he was the driving force. And to have that as a lead singer or to be the front man, sometimes it's a matter of necessity. Because if you're shy and you're taking the front of a stage, you're not going to really sell the point of even the lyric that you're doing. The performance kind of just is mundane, kind of shy, you know, and I don't think anybody's there to see somebody shy. That's why people like have to credit Steven Tyler as an amazing frontman.
Right,
I mean, he's a showman, and you know, different people like that, Michael Sweet of Stryper, you know, they are in that role for a reason, you know. So I suppose that put me as lead of the Beings, and that's a virtual band, to be honest. It's you know, whoever will play, like we played T-Bones in Plymouth about a week ago, last Saturday, and I had a harp player join me from down towards Seekonk, and he drove up there and he played a couple of sets, and then I had a drummer and a bass player, and then my wife joins me after the first set, just nonchalantly walks up there and takes the stage and kills it. You know, she's my harmony, and She drives me nuts.
Now, when you started playing, did you start off originally just as the guitarist, or were you always a singer and a guitarist?
Since I started going out doing any music at all, I've always been the singer-songwriter.
Okay.
So I had to follow it up with the guitar. I don't know. It was never grab a microphone and sing it because I didn't have a band. Majority of your gigs are like solo. I can get a lot more gigs that way, and it enhances what you're trying to sell or portray as a singer-songwriter with just accompanying yourself with a guitar. It's a struggle in a way to get the band to pick up the vibe of what you're putting down.
Right. Now, when you were, you were from here, and then you traveled all over the country. We're in the West Coast, and then you're in Florida.
I lived in San Jose.
And San Jose. How would you describe the the similarities or differences between the type of music from there to getting back here, and that journey along the way? What's your thoughts on the evolution of music from those early days to where it is now? And how did you either go along with it or veer away from it?
Yeah, those are very good points, and
I stayed up all night thinking of that question.
Well, you've got a book there.
Exactly.
I could write a few chapters in that one. Very seriously, like I said, when I was younger, the Beatles and the British Invasion were so strong, and I wasn't really into American music until almost like the Southern rock, like Allman Brothers and Leonard
Skinner. Yeah.
Those guys really sold. Grand Funk Railroad, and Jefferson Starship, but that wasn't Southern rock. But I'm just saying that there were certain bands that would come across over the years that really were attractive, absolutely, but yet my first roots were the British, style, and that was in my family, and so. I'd watched the music of the 60s and the early 70s and then Led Zeppelin and those guys and Pink Floyd and stuff like that. And then when the 80s came along, it was, I remember sitting with my sister on a couch and listening to what was then becoming disco and shifting.
Yep.
And I have to admit it, I cried. I said, if this is where music's going, there's no more radio. There's no more,
Exactly.
I do not enjoy this, and this is not about a pump, pump, pump beat and the dance. Because in the 60s and 70s, they were really trying to make a statement. They were trying to change the world with harmony and peace and love. And they all had deep messages almost. You had to listen close to their songs because you were like trying to find the adventure in it or the journey. I think we lost that. And as the 80s came through, it was more about the dance. Then it was, and love became a little tilted more into lust, you might say. And then songs that were provocative of your thinking, like John Lennon on his own.
Right.
A lot of people don't know a lot of his music, you know. Yeah. But those are my mentors. So you are what you eat, I call it. And when I sing or perform, there's a lot of those nuances that just come out of you that's all you know. And you're not intentionally doing it, but you are it, I think that. And as you said, as the music progressed, that's been a struggle because even grunge or punk or all of them, I think even what's now is more about the show, how you can twerk or how you can move, or
the light
act,
shows and the dancing,
and all the glitz and the glam and everything else, instead of just here's a song. And I mean, I keep going back to Dylan. I mean, he stands up there, doesn't look at a camera, doesn't look at anybody in the audience. He's singing a song, and he walks off the stage. Willie Nelson, those guys just. It's about the song. Are you listening to my song?
Right.
Can you get a message here?
Right. Now, you probably did some covers and, did the cover stuff along the way. And then when did, I know that you've had, had some twists and turns along in your life, and to bring it to the present with your singing and your songwriting. As a musician, you were giving back. And you had a couple of twists and turns along the way, and you kind of shifted gears with your message and the way that you were giving back to people and the way in which you help people. Talk about that a little bit. Make a question out of that.
Is this Jeopardy? I think I'm in Jeopardy.
You must answer with a question.
Yeah. Okay, well, all right. How do you like me now?
Yeah. More than I did 20 minutes ago.
All right, good. Show's over. No, twists and turns. It was like I always lived the rock style lifestyle.
Yep.
You may as well say plenty of drugs,
Yep.
plenty of drinking, partying in your car. Before the drinking and driving was an issue, that's all we ever knew. You know, from when we were 16 years old, we used to drive. Hey, everybody jump in the car and cruise.
Right.
And it was just cruising and partying. And so you live that lifestyle and you're always chasing it and you're going broke. Then you get married and you have kids and they're like, the wife is very gently saying, you need to be able to afford to do recording or pay for it, or it'll come along when it comes along. And I found out it doesn't come along unless you make it come along, for the most part. The idea of getting discovered is, it may happen, but it's like a lightning strike. It's got to be very rare. For the most part, is a lot of tears, a lot of failures. I mean, the depression of not being able to perform as a songwriter, and I'm not bragging, I'm just saying I've written like 370 plus songs. You've got nowhere to perform them. And I sure don't like writing them and singing them to myself.
Right, exactly.
So what I've done is I got into drinking and drugging, and then the fun became the maintenance, staying high, or living on, you know, drinking every day. 12 to 16 brews a day was a maintenance 7 days a week, or smoking or snorting anything I could. Then the wife leaves you. Then you have another wife, and that one leaves you. You know, it's over the course of a long time, but your kids come over.
How did you put all of that into your music, though? I mean, how did you take those messages and you had that day where that light bulb went off and said, I can't do this anymore, and I need to rechannel this energy into my music and help others not get involved in the stuff that I just did?
Well, there's been times where the music was 10 years apart before writing songs.
Okay.
That much of a gap. So 370 songs comes out of as a diary, I call it. It's my life on paper and ink. And putting that in was the day I turned around. I stepped out on a porch and I said, you know what, Lord, and I'm bringing you into the picture here. You've got my life in your hands, and I've got no way out. I've failed 2 marriages. I hope they get married and have a good life.
Yep.
I hope my kids grow up better without me. And I says, I'm not suicidal, but at the same time, I realize my worth to the society or the church or anybody. I don't want to be here anymore. I said, by grace, forgive me to get me out of here. And I says, take me home. And I says, I give you my life. I says, but if you don't, that's got to be the day it ends right now. And it's like putting an imaginary gravestone on my porch that day, like, rest in peace. You're not going to be around anymore. And I took it as, if I'm not dead, I got some reason to be here. So the music shifted with the directive of where I'm led. I go into jails and I help people there. I talk to them about where they think they are as a homie or in the hood, thinking that they got it all together, and they're 14 years old and now they're a father of a kid, of a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, and they're in jail. What kind of hero are you? And where are all your heroes that turned around and ran when you got busted? You know, and then you go in there and say, where's your reality check? I mean, and I can look at it being real because I've been there. It's nothing like getting hooked up, shackled, chained, or whatever, brought into a prison and listen to that steel door close, and then feel like an animal with nobody to help you.
Right. Well, I think that a couple of songs that you're going to do are going to deliver some of those messages.
Yeah, I can imagine one of them is called Hey God, and is talking about the idea of if Adam and Eve had a conversation and Adam wrote the first song, it could have sounded like the one I'm going to do.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to sit back and relax and listen to the songwriting and music of Mr. Franki Dennull.
Thank you. Yeah.
Girl, she was a singer too. When we met, we fell in love. Everyone saw it but couldn't explain it. They said this has to be love. That's what they said. in the kitchen, make love on the phone, make love to make children, make love your home. Make love, not war, come on. Artist girl, she was a singer too. When we met, we fell in love. Everyone said it, now don't you forget it. They said this has to be love. They said this has to be love. They said this has to be love. Has to be love. Here we go to a song called Hey God, man. I can imagine if Adam had his first conversation and wrote the first song. In a garden like we should have a green thumb. Well, why is it again that we shouldn't touch this one? Everything inside my head said go ahead and take some. I say, God, what have you done? You put us in a garden like we should have a green thumb. Well, why is it again that we shouldn't touch this one? Everything inside my head said go ahead and take some. Should've listened to her, should've listened to him, should've listened to her, should've listened to him. Should've listened to her, should've listened to him, should've listened to her, should've listened to him. Well, he came with an idea from out of the branches. You might be missing something. What are the chances? From a whisper to a hiss, a Judas kiss, a split tongue, double talk got us this. He came with an idea from out of the branches. I might be missing something. What are the chances? From a whisper to a hiss to a Judas kiss, a split tongue, double talk got us this. Should've listened to her, should've listened to him, should've listened to her, should've listened to him. Should've listened to her, should've listened to him, should've listened to her, should've listened to him. Well, you can't go back, can't go back there. Get born again, that's your only way in. Said you can't go back, can't go back there. Get born again, that's your only way in. I said, hey God, what have you done? Hey God, what have you done? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I'm traveling over these railroad tracks, putting up my luggage on the luggage rack, looking out the window while I'm seeing all the people looking at me, thinking my life is passing me by. necessarily about where I'm going, but did I leave a good impression on your mind? Well, I'm traveling over these railroad tracks, tugging on emotions like they're rubber bands. Someone talking sexy and another playing games. Another one says politics will change everything. I wonder why. Well, it's not necessarily about where I'm going, but did I leave a good impression on your mind? Yeah, well, everyone knows after the winter snows, the earth comes alive again and everything grows. And after we've all been here for so long, the conversation is, oh, everything has gone so wrong. Well, I got some good news. I got me a ticket in my pocket. I'm waiting for that train coming. Ah! Yeah, I'm traveling over these railroad tracks, putting up my luggage on the luggage rack, looking out the window while I'm seeing all the people looking at me, thinking my life is passing me by. Not necessarily about where I'm going, but did I leave a good impression on your mind? You died today, what would they say about you? You died today, what would they put on your tomb? Take a good look in the mirror if you're able to. Does it remind you of all the things you wanted to? You died today, what would they say about you? You died today, what would they put on your tomb? Take a good look in the mirror if you're able to. Does it remind you of all the things you wanted to? Or is this all an illusion that's filled with lies? Who's put the wool over your eyes, would you like to know? Well, I'll tell you, but you died today, what would they say about you? You died today, what would they put on your tomb? Take a good look in the mirror if you're able to. Does it remind you of all the things you wanted to? Themselves. So take all your trophies down off of the shelves. They don't belong to you. Well, I tell you, and all of us here have to use our own voice, give a defense or excuse for our choices, but Jesus is the one we'll be talking to. You died today, what would they say about you? You died today, what would they put on your tomb? Take a good look in the mirror if you're able to. Does it remind you of all the things you wanted to?
Wow.
Thank you.
Frankie, you don't disappoint, kid. You know, for the sake of time, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the places that you play and how people can reach you, and, you know, any final messages that you want to give, any kudos that you want to give.
Yeah, a little bit.
That camera's yours.
All right, well, one of the things is I have to give a lot of respect to, thinking of Michael Sweet.
Sure.
Finding me down at this place. I was playing a place called Katie's Burgers. I play a lot of burger joints or pizza places sometimes. So anywhere, you know, restaurants, pubs, taverns.
And Michael Sweet is, for the sake of those at home?
Michael Sweet's out on tour right now with a band called Striper.
Striper.
Very well-known 80s rock band.
Yep.
I was playing a place called K. Katie's Burgers down Plymouth, and he came in off tour with his wife and daughter and was watching me perform after my first hour, and he sat for 2 hours listening to me. So real quick was he went out on tour, went out to the Whiskey A Go-Go in California, and he calls me up and says, "You want to open for my Christmas show?" I said, "I'm in." So
Cool as that. You got some sun in your future, huh?
That was an exciting time, you know.
Good for you.
A slight discovery of the unknown artist moment, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. And then Randy Stoneill's a Christian artist that's gone around for 40 plus years. He is definitely one of the mentors. Larry Norman, Randy Stonill wrote so much of what was called contemporary Christian music back in the day, where they brought rock and roll to the church, you know, and brought the message of peace and love and Jesus to the world. And yet they still couldn't get into the club scene. But they kind of shook up the church a lot too.
Cool.
And took it out of the hymns and stuff like that. So they inspired me a lot, you know.
How can people get a hold of you?
You can go to my Facebook page, The Beings 888, and then you can get me at, well, to email me is thebeings888@gmail.com.
And you not only play with the Beings, you go out and do solo stuff. And
A lot
you
of
go
solo
out,
stuff,
you do a lot of jams, and you know, as you say, sometimes your wife will go up there and
Absolutely. She's the harmony in all the songs that we
all of that.
recorded.
Yeah.
You know, she is a beautiful harmony, and she loves performing with me because she sees I'm in my element, and, and she just loves, you know, promoting me that way. You know, I have to go back. You know, Dylan wasn't like known for his voice, and neither was John Lennon. They hated their voice actually.
Right.
I don't love my voice. I don't call myself a great singer, and I don't call myself a great guitar player at all. I said, but I use those to get the song, to have wings, you might say, and get in your ear.
Well, you certainly spread your wings today, and I think your music and your stories have indicated that.
Thank you.
And I would be remiss if, first of all, I didn't thank you for coming, Frankie. It's been a pleasure.
Again, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I really sincerely
And ladies and gentlemen, as always, I could not do this show without the expert direction and sound of Roxanne Morris, who pushes the buttons and make us look pretty. And also we have a guest in the booth today, Beverly Dancy, one of the big supporters of this show. So Bev, thanks for coming in, and Roxanne, as always, thank you for the great job that you do. So for everyone here at SMAC, I encourage you to go out and support your local musicians. Go out and see guys like Frank. Go to the clubs, go to the venues. So for everyone here, from my guest, Franki Dennull, I am Frank Walsh. As always, tune in and tune on.